So that didn't go well. Boston Celtics dropped game 3. I'm here at the Fiserv Forum where Jayson Tatum stunk. The Celtics stunk in the third quarter. We're great in the fourth quarter. So much to get to. The officiating, all that. It's all coming up right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-Team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine and your first listen every day. Locked On Celtics is free, available wherever you get your podcasts. It is usually Monday through Friday, but it's a Saturday night. It's the playoffs. So I am here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show on YouTube. You'll see I'm on the floor here at the Fiserv Forum where the Celtics lost by 2, 103-101 after a furious fourth quarter comeback. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, and I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, and I was one of the media voters for the Celtics' 75th anniversary team. Let's dive into this, and because it's such a special occasion, I brought Tom Westerholm back. What is up, Tommy boy?
You brought me back, kicking and screaming, yes. but I'm here. I'm ready to talk about the worst Jayson Tatum playoff game in recent memory.
And like ever? Has he ever had a worse playoff game?
Hard to imagine he's had a worse one. Yeah.
No. Let's see. 4 of 19, 21% shooting, 0 of 6 from 3. Finished with 10 points. This was not great. Hey, by the way, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your home for all the latest sports betting action. Has you covered this season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. No one would have bet on Tatum scoring 10 points in Game 3. And let's just start there. We'll spend this first segment talking about Tatum. Later on, we do actually have to address the officiating, which is my least favorite topic. But we gotta.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the other stuff in segment 2. We'll figure it out. We're flying by the seat of our pants. Tatum, all they needed from Tatum was 3 minutes of him saying, okay, you know what? I suck today, but here's 3 straight buckets, and we're just gonna run out of here with a win. He couldn't even shake free for that much. And after the game, Ime, Jayson, both saying the same thing, kind of overthinking the game, passed up some open shots, tried to do a little too much, thinking way too much on the floor. What did you see from Tatum out there?
Yeah, I mean, you see these games during the regular season. You know what I mean? We have not seen many of these games from him during the playoffs. Like, we've seen him, every once in a while he has these games where he just can't get it going. It seems like something has taken him out of it. The defense is aggressive. It's, they're trying to take the ball out of his hands. And I think one of the things that really separated the Celtics from so many teams during the second half of the season was the way that Tatum, when he attacked, when he went, it was just so hard to take him out of the game. And the Bucks managed to do that. And I mean, maybe some of that was Tatum managing to do it to himself too. But we haven't seen that very often from Tatum since January, right? Since this whole, crazy run started. So, yeah, I mean, I just it was a really bad game for him. Like, he could not find the range from 3, and he could not, at the end there was that one play where he drove baseline and he got that reverse layup, and it was just other guys have been scoring in the paint. If Derek White can score in the paint, I don't understand why,
right.
This is not I don't know. The Bucks are a very good defensive team in the playoffs. They've been very aggressive, but I just thought, it just looked like Tatum, some combination of Tatum and the Bucks were taking him out of it.
Yeah, that goes with the overthinking things. I think he maybe expected certain things from the defense, and he said they didn't do anything special. I didn't see anything special that they did to Tatum to take him out of this. I thought that they played him pretty pretty normally. Like they blitzed them and all of that stuff. But I thought that baseline drive when he shook free, I was like, okay, this is it. This is going to be the beginning of that Tatum, that run. Like, okay. And it would have been a great story. Here's Tatum. He sucks all game. And then boom, he has that stretch. Celtics steal the win after that third quarter was so bad. That would have been like part of the legend of Jayson Tatum. Now he has to write that legend some other way in game 4. He needs to come back with a big game 4. But when I think when he talks about overthinking things, I think that when you're on the floor and you're overthinking, you expect certain things, and you get a certain message in your head, which is they're blitzing me, I have to get the other guys going. And I think what Tatum passed up, those mid-range shots, like good mid-range shots, not the one-legged fadeaways that he was trying to take. Those aren't great. Right. But stepping into shots, forget all of the 2-pointer, 3-pointer, whatever stuff. Open shot against the Bucks defense is an open shot. If Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown especially can step into any open jump shot, just take it, because that's going to be a good shot. Now, you prefer it's not going to be off of like the one pass and rush it, but right. I'm talking about like coming off the dribble. They're playing drop coverage. They're playing drop coverage on Jayson Tatum. Just take that dribble, get into the rhythm, take that shot. That's a good shot. You don't have to worry about setting your teammates up in that spot necessarily. And I think I think he's too caught up in how he's been handled in this series and saying, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to get this guy the ball. I got to get that guy the ball. And he kind of like forgot himself for most of this game. And by the time he tried to get back going, it was too far gone. Like he was too far gone. The fourth quarter, they were at their best when Tatum wasn't even involved. It's funny because I was about to rail on somebody on Twitter who was like, just bench Jayson Tatum. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I realized like they're actually playing better without him. And it's insane to say, but they played their best without Tatum on the floor most of that fourth quarter.
Well, I mean, because if you look around at the rest of the team, there were a lot of guys who were having pretty good games, right? Like Al Horford was having a phenomenal game. Awesome. Yeah, Jaylen was quite good. I mean, he wasn't perfect or anything, but he had some really good moments. And to your point about the mid-range shots, like Jaylen was the guy who keeps like he really kind of dials in some of those mid-range shots that the Bucks give him, and he's knocked down several of them. So Derek White had some really nice moments. Like there were other guys on the team having a pretty good game who were just not named Jayson Tatum. And that. I mean, that's okay. Like the Celtics still almost pulled it out, but it really there was an opportunity to steal this one that I think you're exactly right. Like Tatum has like a 3-minute stretch and this game is over, but I mean, and you could say the same thing for a million other things too, right? And I'm sure we'll get to all of them where it's like, Al Horford makes a tip in like a split second earlier, yeah. Marcus Smart gets 3 free throws again. I'm sure we're going to get to all that stuff, but
yeah,
but I mean, the Tatum thing is it really does kind of shine through a little bit. And I think a big part of that, like I said, I think a big part of it is just because the Celtics have been so consistent about getting Tatum those good looks and about putting him in situations and him putting himself in situations where he has the ball, and he's still dangerous because teams have to double team him. I did think that like it was weird how he wouldn't go after Wesley Matthews. Like I know Wesley Matthews is a good defender, but like he kind of did to himself what the Celtics have done to Giannis this whole series, where he allowed himself to be single covered.
Right.
And that's a huge part of the concept behind both him and Giannis is you can't just single cover me because I'll destroy you. He wasn't that guy tonight. Wesley Matthews kind of turned him into Giannis being guarded by Grant Williams.
Yeah. And that just can't happen in game 4. It just can't happen anymore. And like, I'm willing to give Tatum like a 1-game pass because obviously, first of all, obviously he's much better than this. And secondly, obviously nobody comes in saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to shoot 21% and 10 points in a nationally televised game 3, a pivotal game 3, and set it up so now the Celtics have to beat the Bucks three times out of four games. Like, obviously, he didn't want to have this game, but now that's it. Like, margin for error is gone. You cannot have another one of these games. Nothing even close. He has to be great from now on. And you know how fickle fan bases are, and the media, the national media is. Like, you have like if he kind of has another one of these in game 4 and the Bucks go up 3-1, then all of a sudden the narrative changes on Tatum and it becomes, is he really ready to be a leader? Yeah. Like, he came into the season and came into the playoffs as, whoa, Tatum's an MVP candidate. And now the narrative threatens to switch. And, you know, who cares about narratives? But like, that's just what it is. Tatum just, I hate saying it this way, but he just needs to be better. You have to go out there and, being a superstar, being the type of player that Tatum wants to be, you have to be able to impose your will. And it's as simple as that.
It is. I mean, you say who cares about narrative? The honest truth is Jayson Tatum cares very deeply about narrative. He does. Like, he has said in interviews, like, I set these benchmarks for myself that I needed to hit this benchmark by year 2, this benchmark by year 3, because those are the guys who, that's the guys who I looked up to all did this by year 1, year 2, year 3. He himself is a guy who defines his own career by narrative. And you know what? I think that's reasonable. I think, psychology tells us that, like, we all define our own lives by narrative, right? So, like, okay, Jayson, like, that makes sense. You define yourself by narrative. So game 4 has got to be your, that classic photo of LeBron, with like the super serious face right before playing the Celtics in game 6. That's got to be Jayson Tatum in game 4. Like, like that's what the guys, the echelon that he is trying to reach, those types of guys in a game like game 4, they come through and they have a huge game and they like put their team on their shoulders. And that's what he's trying to do. So that's what he's got to do in game 4.
Absolutely. All right. So that's the Jayson Tatum discussion. There's going to be plenty more room for discussing that. Up next, some of the other guys, we'll talk about the other individual performances later on. Like I said, we will get to the officiating. We'll fold all of that in. First of all, let me talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting and sports information. I'm sure now, I haven't checked the lines after this one. Talk about like the narrative switching like in the wind. The betting lines are going to switch. The Celtics became, favorites again after game 2. Milwaukee's going to be heavy favorites now after game 3. So if you feel confident in the Celtics and you want to lay some money down, I think the Celtics should feel confident. That's something we're going to talk about up next as well. So head on over to BetOnline, your source for all of your sports wagering information, live betting, in-game betting, also other sports, baseball, the Kentucky Derby. You could have bet. Somebody made a ton of money betting on the Kentucky Derby winner, which I don't even know, but I just know it was an 80-1 shot to win the Derby. So head on over to BetOnline, use the website, use your mobile device, head on over, sign up today, get more on all the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why not make Locked On NBA your second listen every day? Locked On NBA's got everything covered from top to bottom here in the playoffs. I'm one of the hosts. I host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison, Locked On Pelicans. So make sure you're following Locked On NBA. Subscribe there wherever you got Locked On Celtics. Your show is also on YouTube. Let me bring Tom back in, and let's just start with the confidence thing, because for all of the things that happened in this game, right? The first half was just both teams hitting each other with 2x4s. And then they each, so weird, by the way, that the first half was this slog. And then all of a sudden the third quarter was all Bucks and the fourth quarter was basically all Celtics. Like, two completely different quarters than we saw in the first half. But after all of that, Tatum sucked. Officiating, Marcus Smart wasn't great. All the things that happened in that game, Bucks going up by 14 at home, and you think, oof, this thing is over. They had a shot, should have had 3 free throws to tie the game. Marcus Smart misses the second free throw intentionally. He gets the 2, misses the second one intentionally, and they almost tip it in. They were a half second away from tipping that in. I think you come out of that saying, you know what? It took everything they had in a game 3 must-win situation for them, and they only won by 2. I still feel confident coming out of this game.
Okay. So I feel confident coming out of this game, but not for that reason. Because my thing is always just like I really am strongly in the camp that every playoff game is its own entity. And you can't look at because I just think to win a playoff game, it requires so much effort and so much fight and so much just grit and a couple things going right for you. Playoff games require a lot of things to go right. And so I kind of look at each one as its own entity. Yeah, the Celtics could have won this game with all these factors stacked up against them, but they didn't. And now, okay, let's say Jayson Tatum has a good game, but they still lose game 4. Season is still basically over, right?
Right.
So I'm always hesitant with that line of thinking. That said, I do think the Tatum one to me is the big one because I just do not think he's going to have another game as bad as that. And we know the Celtics are so much more dangerous with Jayson Tatum. We still haven't really seen them come back to the full level. I don't even think in game 2 we really saw it, the full level of Rob and Tatum and Jaylen and everybody just playing at the peak of their powers and the ball's zipping around and everything. I do expect to see that sometime here. I could definitely see that being game 4. I think that this is going to go back to Boston tied 2-2. But yeah, I mean, look, it was a bizarre game, just start to finish, just as weird as it gets. You mentioned you mentioned they had a chance to win, or a chance to tie at the end. Frankly, they had 2 chances to basically win it with about 50 seconds left.
Yes.
When, I think it was Al and Smart both missed wide open 3-pointers that would have put them up by 4 and just absolutely would have put them in the driver's seat. Yep. Milwaukee never went up by more than 1 possession. The Celtics had a chance to go up by 2 possessions on those 2 threes. And just, I think you just knew Giannis was going to score as soon as the Celtics missed those 2.
Yeah. And that was, you're right. That was the real turning point. In fact, when I wrote my game story on Boston Sports Journal, I picked that as my turning point in the game.
Yep.
Because, and it was, I think Jaylen missed the first one, but here's the thing, again, we will talk about the officiating, but this is why I don't like talking about the officiating, even though we have to in today's podcast, because you can go back to that sequence and now Marcus Smart gets the ball. Jaylen misses. Grant gets the offensive rebound. Gets back out to Marcus Smart. 7-6 on the shot clock. So he knows the clock is winding down. He gets a kind of open shot, lightly contested. Nothing that should bother an NBA shooter. But if he had just swung it one more pass, Jaylen Brown wide open in the corner, no one on him. It was one guy covering both of those guys. Al Horford had, I forget, Bobby Portis maybe occupied down on the block. So he was never going to get out there on time. And now I'm not blaming Smart and saying, oh, this is a Marcus Smart type of shot, because under the circumstances with the clock winding down, I think he saw a clean look at the basket and he said, okay, this is a good look for me. And that's a spot on the floor where he has hit, the majority of his 3-pointers have come from that top left above the break spot on the floor. So I can understand it, but also, just be aware. This is the same dude who, with 3 seconds left on the clock in game 1 against Brooklyn, up faked and made an extra pass or whatever time was left. So he knows how much time is he knows how much time he has to make that extra play. If he had just made that, now who knows? Jaylen could have missed. Very easily could have missed. But it's also Jaylen Brown, who had 14 points in the fourth quarter, all by himself in the corner. You're like, oh, just make that extra pass. That one extra pass changes potentially the entire series. Who knows how things go? That one was a tough one for me. That one was tough.
I mean, that whole stretch, it was rough because you knew, again, you make that shot, that game's over. You're winning game, winning game 3. You're going into game 4 with all the momentum, all the, not only, kind of the reverse of what you were saying. Like, you win that game, you go into game 4, like, you just got 42 points from Giannis, and we still beat you even with 4 for 19 shooting from Tatum on your own floor, all that stuff. And like that, that didn't happen. So here we are.
That would have been
and I mean, and again, we'll get into some of the other stuff, but just a million of those little examples of things that like could have gone better. And, hey, like, maybe the Celtics could have tried not to switch Jaylen onto Giannis. Like, for all of the myriad good things that Jaylen Brown does on both ends of the basketball floor, he can't guard Giannis. And I like, Tatum can't either. Neither of those guys can come anywhere close to guarding Giannis. And it's kind of interesting. I'm always curious whether that's more a function of they can't guard him or a function of just like the Celtics don't want, like, guarding Giannis is violent. Like, I mean, Peyton Pritchard almost got his arm wrenched off, and I don't think Giannis was trying to. It's just like, you stick your hand in that cookie jar bites. So, I mean, I just like maybe the Celtics could have not had Jaylen on Giannis in those final minutes, like if they could have figured out a way to do that. But it's just it's playoff basketball, man. It is freaking hard to get a win.
It is hard. It is hard, man.
They make the game look so hard. These two teams, like, they just,
oh my God,
it doesn't look fun at all.
The ice baths that must be necessary after these games. I mean, I tweeted out in the second quarter, both teams are shooting like 31%. They were in the 30s or like maybe 4. It was a miracle to me that after that first half, the Celtics had not only the halftime lead, but that they had scored 50 points.
Oh my God.
I was absolutely shocked that they had scored 50 points in that first half. I jokingly said first team to 80 would win the game. And because I didn't know if either team would get to 80. Like, this has been the exact type of series that we expected, in that after that Brooklyn series where a ton of points went up, we're like, no. This is first, if you score 100 points, consider yourself lucky in this series. So
real quick before we move on, can you believe how good Giannis has gotten? Like, I know we watch him, like, on like national TV games and like stuff like that, because we like cover the Celtics. But like, when you see somebody in a playoff series, you always get this like special appreciation. And I cannot believe how good this guy has gotten. He's gotten amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I keep saying it because I'm lucky to be here. And I'm standing here, I'm talking to another reporter, and Giannis comes out, and I'm just like, that dude, when you say freak, like, legitimately, his torso is like the same size as like my torso. His legs are like grasshoppers. He just has these gigantic limbs, and his torso is like this big. And the way he can move is unreal. The things that he can do are, he honestly, he made a nice adjustment. He had been he'd been trying to bull through people, and then all of a sudden he started changing direction, like somewhere in the second half, like Al Horford was just kind of like going this way, and then Giannis just went, nope, you know what, boom. And it wasn't a Euro step. He just, gonna go here, and I'm just changing direction. I'm like, God, this dude is like, it's like a sentient robot. It's wild to see him out there. But it did lend credence to my thought that he had 40 points and 8 assists. He had 20 points and 2 assists, I think, at halftime. And the Celtics had the lead. And I had been saying, I said it, I did a TV hit with Channel 5, and it's the first thing I said. I don't care if Giannis scores 40. If he has 40 with 2 assists, fine, because he's only generating at most 46 points. That's fine. But it was the 8 assists. When he got up to 8 assists in this game, that's where the third quarter got out of control, and the Celtics were sloppy and turning the ball over and all of that stuff. Honestly, it just came down to, really, if we want to get down to forget Tatum, forget the officials, forget all of that stuff, all those little minutia. Don't turn the damn ball over in the third quarter. They had 7 turnovers in the third quarter. Don't turn the ball over. Protect the ball. Play smart. If you just play a normal third quarter, you win the game, even with all this other stuff. And we would be sitting here talking about, yeah, Giannis is great, and Tatum was terrible, but they still ended up winning by 8 because they protected the ball and they just executed their offense, and they're a better team. Still feel like the Celtics are the better team if they can do their stuff, but that's what makes each team kind of like better on a certain night. You keep the other team from doing their stuff.
Yeah, no, 100%.
All right, and now the thing that I don't want to talk about, but we have to, the officials. We have to address the officiating in this series, but I will do so after we talk about Built Bar, which is the best tasting protein bar on the market. Tastes like a candy bar, looks like a candy bar, smells like a candy bar. It's basically looks like it's a candy bar, except it's healthy because each one of these is about 130 calories or so, 17 or so grams of protein, 4 net carbs, 4 grams of sugar. It's just much, much better for you. So if you got a sweet tooth and you're thinking like, oh God, how do I cut candy bars out of my life? I love them. Built Bar is a great way to do that. If you want just a sweet kind of treat after you go work out, that's going to help you fuel your muscles and kind of get your body the nutrients that it's looking for. Built Bar, something meal replacement, throw in your bag like I throw into my bag. And when I'm traveling, it's a great thing to get you through the day. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. LOCKED15, it's going to give you 15% off every single time. So go sample. Don't worry about the pressure of having to stock up or you're burning the promo code. Use LOCKED15. Use it however often you want to get whatever you want. It's going to give you 15% off at built.com. All right, Tom, let's just get into this. The officiating has to be better in this series. And I'm sure the Bucks fans who are hate listening or celebratory listening will sit there and be like, oh, it's bad for both sides. Like, yeah, that's not good either. That's not good. I don't want it bad for both sides. I want it good for both sides. Here's the thing. I don't understand how officials can just not see the ball coming down on obvious goaltends. Like Giannis is a freak of nature, but that ball is coming down. He's done it twice. They need to call that obvious thing. They need to call the Bobby Portis elbow on Robert Williams. It was very clear, and the official is right there on the baseline. You're watching these plays. What are you looking at? The NBA has a hyper focus on above the neck things where even like the slightest accidental foul above the head gets reviewed for a flagrant, and you let that go. That was a dangerous play. And I don't think Bobby Portis did it on purpose, but it's still a dangerous play, inadvertent or not. That should have been a foul and probably a flagrant, the way this stuff is called. And Marcus Smart at the end, obviously stepping into a shot. It's 4 seconds left. He's open. He's trying to take a shot. It's Marcus Smart. Of course he's trying to take a shot. I'm sure the officials will be like, he's also Marcus Smart and he flops a lot. But to call that apparently a rip through is asinine to me. Like that dude was in his shot motion. He had taken his 2 steps. He wasn't just flinging his arms out.
Right.
All I want is the obvious stuff to be called correctly. And I will give the officials the leeway for bang things, block charge, fine. I'm not worried about block charge calls, whatever. The obvious stuff, those 3 things in particular, just and I'm not saying that they even would have swung the game. Marcus Smart could have missed one of the free throws. I don't know, but I just don't think it looks good for the league to have guys getting elbowed in the head with no call.
Well, and more importantly, to your point about not more importantly, because concussions, but like equally importantly, perhaps for the league, like it's just not a good look for everybody to be talking about the officiating after these games. Like it just isn't. And like, look, I will say it is the playoffs, and fans will be talking about the officiating no matter what when their team loses, right? Like that is just kind of baked in. But I mean, those were 3 very high profile calls. Like I think, you're especially the goaltending, like that was a, very obvious call. The smart three was very funny because it's like, I wonder if the Celtics had their review, if that would have gotten overturned, because I got the distinct impression that the official was like you can't prove that Smart wasn't fishing for the foul. I think he might have been. My take is that should be allowed. Like if the other team is going to foul up 3, and if the NBA is going to allow that, even though it does take away some of the drama at the end of a game, if the NBA is going to allow you to foul up 3, then I think they should also be willing to reward people who halfway grift their way into trying to get 3 shots, right? Like, I do think that should go both ways, in kind of the same way that I feel like Giannis should be allowed to barrel into people, and maybe refs shouldn't be too ticky-tack about people swinging and swiping at the ball. Like, if it's going to be a physical game, let it be a physical game. And if it's going to be a foul up 3, then let it be, if they're going to foul up 3, let the guy try to get into a shooting motion and, give him a call. Like, those things make sense to me. The goaltend one and the elbow one are just kind of like inexcusable calls. And I'm I follow more Celtics people than Bucks people. I'm sure there were bad calls that had Bucks fans just as up in arms. Totally. I don't know what they were because I didn't see them tweeted 100 times onto my timeline. But I don't doubt for a second they exist.
Well, I can tell you the Grant Williams foul.
That's
the Grant Williams foul, which happened down over here, was the where he fouled Giannis on the break.
Oh, where he tried to hold him up. Yeah.
Tried to hold him up, but he fell. I mean, to me, now this is where you go a little bit like from the Boston perspective. I don't know, but I saw him trying to hold him up, and they reviewed it, and it was a common foul. But let me tell you something. This place exploded when they said common foul because they thought that was a flagrant. They probably wanted, Grant Williams in jail for that one.
Right. Well, I mean, but what was the difference between that and what Draymond did to, the other night where he got a flagrant too? He's
hand caught in the jersey, but that, that stuff happens. And, you're right. Like sometimes the same intent, but one, millisecond later, that would have been a flagrant too. You know what I mean? Like if Giannis had just been a half step slower and he tripped and Grant didn't get a chance to grab him, and it would have looked like Grant was throwing him, and that could have been, you know what I mean? So I don't think, like, aside from the Gary Payton one where who was it that committed that foul again?
Dylan Brooks. Right?
Dylan Brooks. Yes, thanks. Yeah, that one was like very odd. Like that one is different, but the Draymond one and this one for Grant, like that stuff, it's a matter of like sometimes that's just luck. But I got to tell you that I'm really like the one that really really bugs me. The two that bug me are the goaltend, because and it's not just here. Like for some reason, NBA officials are horrible at goaltending calls. I see them missed all the time. I don't understand it. There has to be some level of league review to be able to say, oh, that was on the way down. Like someone in the video center needs to like be a buzzer and be like, nope, sorry, you missed that. And you can review the foot on the line 3-pointers after the fact. You should be able to review that. But the elbow to Rob, and especially because it knocked him out of the game for a while. Thankfully, he's fine. But that could have been serious because it's an elbow to the temple. And also, I shouldn't even say thankfully he's fine, because concussions are weird that they happen in different ways. That could have been an immediate concussion, but he could also wake up in the morning and be like, oh my God, it's so bright, I have a headache. And people, it'd be like, oh, you actually do have a concussion. And so he's still not out of the woods necessarily yet. But that type of thing for the NBA, with its emphasis on protecting head injuries, that one is absolutely inexcusable. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a retroactive flagrant foul assessed to Bobby Portis after, like, tomorrow.
Yeah. I could see it. That would, it's a dangerous play. Like you said, I don't think Bobby Portis meant to do it.
No.
It was kind of funny. I also noticed that Bobby Portis was the reason that Grant and Giannis tumbled to the ground. I'm pretty sure because on the flagrant, because Grant was kind of holding Giannis up on that play, and Bobby Portis comes over and is kind of like, "Hey, get off him," but Grant kind of holding him up. It was an odd moment. And it definitely made it look a little bit more dramatic than I think it actually was.
Yeah, that was. What else stood out to this? We're going to wrap this up here, but what else stood out in this game for you? Anything?
I mean, I think, not really. I mean, Horford was great. I know we didn't talk about him too much, but he was really the driving force behind that rally. All those shots that he made, just answering shots too, right? Somebody hits a shot, Horford kind of comes down and just, the dad settling everybody down. Okay, kids, we're okay. We're just gonna keep hooping.
Can I just interrupt for a second here?
Yeah.
After the game in the media room, I don't know if people can call up the video. Al Horford looked as pissed off as I've ever seen him. Normally he comes in and he's calm. He was like steely eye. He was pissed off. I felt
clenching.
Yeah. He looked angry. The type of angry where I'm like, oh god damn, he really has a side to him that you don't see, but that was just the little squints. Yeah, the jaw clenching, like you said, that was. I was looking at him like, God, man, I don't want to ask Horford anything at this point. He might flip the table.
Yeah, he did. He looked really mad. But he played phenomenal. I mean, look, it's the weird thing about this series is how this is the second time now in this series that it feels like this season that feels so kind of so kind of this kind of blessed season, right? Where all of a sudden everything just flipped around. Second time in this series that it feels like it is down to one game. They have to win game 4 in much the same way that it felt like they had to win game 2. So it'll be really interesting, man. I'm excited to see what happens.
I am too. I think they can do it. I really am confident that they can do it. I think that they still they find little bits, but they still aren't putting the whole thing together. Okay, now you got Horford, now you got Jaylen going. Now we screwed up. It's like spinning plates. Now the Jayson plate fell off. You got to spin that one to get it going. So we'll see. I think I said going into this, split in Boston, split in Milwaukee. Now I thought it was going to be Boston winning 1 and 3, and they could end up winning 2 and 4. I said Celtics in 6. It's going to be hard for me to actually ask them to win 3 out of 4 games, or 3 games in a row, I should say.
Right.
So I think if they win game 4, then it becomes a home game series, and then we're looking at Celtics in 7. But I still have confidence in them. So you do too? That's good. Still confident. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
And thanks to you for listening to the Locked On Celtics podcast, even after a loss like that. Much, much more to talk about in this. And I'm going to bring ESPN's Andrew Lopez on for tomorrow's podcast. He's here. He's covering this series for ESPN. So off the Pelicans beat. And so he'll be on the podcast tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed there. Watch the show on YouTube. I'm here at Fiserv Forum. I'll make sure I make up my hotel room tomorrow. So people complained about my bed that wasn't made the last time I was in Brooklyn. So I'll be neater in my hotel room podcasting tomorrow. But here for you every day after a game, all week long. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you are a subscriber, share the podcast. Tell everybody, tell the world that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.